This is M&M Radio, M&M Radio. Turn it up, turn it up. Here we go, M&M Radio, M&M Radio. Turn it up. Here we go.
Me and you have a very special guest. Now is the moment that you all have been waiting for.
That's right, man. Y'all know her. She is we're holding it down for the ladies and the women on Reach Records record label, man. Listen, she is a mogul, man, in beauty and music and I can say even in tech now and business and so many different fashions, man. And she's here on M&M Live Radio. Welcome Wande to the show. Okay, so Wande, how you feeling?
I'm feeling blessed. You know, it's a great time.
Okay, so I want to blow both of y'all's minds real quick. Mm-hmm. So the very first time, I think the first time we did a sit down interview like this was when you first got signed to Reach. We were at Reach, everything, to the exact day.
Wow.
To the exact day we're recording this, it's been 5 years, I think, since we recorded that.
Are you kidding me?
Exactly. I was watching the interview to see, like, the growth since then. And I was looking to the date. I'm like, wow, this is the date we're going to be talking to Wande. And this is the same date that we had her then. So with thinking about that, the Wande you were when you first got signed, who would you say, what are the differences in between?
Wait, first of all, happy anniversary, guys.
Right. Yeah, happy anniversary. What would you say is the difference between Wande then and Wande now?
I think there's a lot of differences. I think there was a beauty to Wande then in terms of like, hey man, I'm just happy to be here. Yeah. So for me, it was just like a really joyful moment of just like walking in the beauty of God's I guess God's testimony being fulfilled, of what he said like would happen and it actually happening. So back then, just joyful, happy to be here, just out here, outside, living life. I think now, I've endured more life now. So I think now, if anything, I'm almost trying to get back to that version, but almost still not getting back because you don't want to go backwards. But I think now I'm like trying to be more of an alive version of myself and more of a carefree. I think more now I've endured like more trauma, I guess, per se, but at the same time I think I've learned a lot though, which is good. So I think I'm just more of a refined version, but I think now I choose to be joyful or I choose to be carefree, but it's like it has to be an active decision versus like just not having experienced life type stuff.
What ways would you say go ahead?
No, you go ahead first.
I was going to say, what ways do you feel like you've grown creatively? Because while 5 years doesn't seem like a long time, it actually is like a good chunk of amount of time.
Yeah, I think I've grown tremendously, especially like in technicalities. Like there's so much about the technical aspect of how you record that I didn't know at the time that like now like my brain is just like second nature. I think I've grown more comfortable with just expressing my thoughts of like what I want to hear, and knowing how to communicate that in a technical terms, so that way I can actually have it happen. Yeah, but I think I've grown tremendously, like, musically. Even back then, I didn't know I could sing. So, like, even that, like, so now I put a whole bunch of more vocals in my songs. So, yeah, I'm super excited for, like, a new album I'm working on, because it's, like, you can see the growth, and I'm happy. I'm like, come on now, drop the album. But, yeah, I think I've grown tremendously, and I'm just excited for people to be able to hear it, to experience it, and
This is what I was going to say, right? So first of all, Wande, you have single-handedly, I think, shaped CHH performances and elevated them to such a completely different level. I remember when I first started seeing you perform, I feel like you were feeling your way through your performances, and then you were like, no, I feel like CHH needs to provide more entertainment and just be more dynamic when it comes to like bringing the experience on stage. I remember seeing you in the gym. I remember seeing you like when we went to the gym.
Remember that?
I remember.
Oh yeah.
I remember we were in the. Wande invited us to this workout.
The bar class,
the bar classes, and we were about to die.
And we went to IHOP after.
Canceled out everything that we worked out
we did
for.
because we deserved it.
But I say all that to say, like, I feel like you have been just the forerunner that really encouraged other CHH artists to really bring their heat. Not that they weren't bringing their heat before, but just add so much more dimension to their performances. You have dancers, you have whole ensembles, you have visuals, you have like so much different life that you're bringing into so much of your performances. And when you see Wande, it's a whole complete different experience. But I want to ask you this. So over the past 5 years of you getting signed, have you seen any progress or support in supporting the female MCs, or do you feel like you still or the women of CHH have to still try to like fight and build their own seat to be at the table?
Oh, I think there's been a tremendous amount of progress. I think, honestly, it all happened within the last 12 months. Maybe like
really?
2 years to 12 months, per se. I think Don't Worry About It helped a lot. I think people saw like how well that was doing, and that changed the game. Because I know they weren't even going to give us a music video for that. Like, it was crazy. And me and Portia... Literally, Portia was motivating me.
Portia got faith like none other, man.
Because I be having faith, but, I was worn down at that point. Like, how I said I've been going through some things. So I was worn down. I was like, you know what, it's life. And then Portia was like, no, whatever. And I was like, you know what, I appreciate you, Portia. You still innocent. And so I was like, so she was like, we just put in our money, we can make it happen. And I was like, okay, Portia, since you have faith, I'm going to have faith. And I'm down to support you. I'll match you with the money. We'll figure out, we'll make it happen. And I'll show up. And then it was crazy because then Spotify put our song on New Music Friday, which is like a playlist for like next to Cardi B type stuff. And so after that, the label and everything was like, oh, snap, what? Because like historically only Lecrae has gotten that type of treatment. So after that, then everything changed, the dynamic. It was like, you know what, actually maybe we should do the music video. So it was cool because we had already been preparing and we already had like a script and everything. So then now we just have the money. It's like there's a quote like, I had the plan, I just need the platform.
Yeah.
Like, so yeah, basically we just had the funding to go behind it. The video ended up doing well. We got a whole bunch of support for it. The song ended up doing well. Got picked up by things like Netflix and stuff like that. So that was beautiful, and I think it helped tremendously of having like a level of respect to what we're doing. And then I think as well, on top of that, like this past year, it's been a whole bunch of women. And I think TikTok has helped tremendously. But a whole bunch of women just been killing it and being more confident and bold in terms of like just putting out their music and putting it on the internet. So I think you've seen a whole bunch of people. I see this girl in Cali. Her name is like Key. I don't know how to pronounce it, but it's Key Elijah, something like that.
Yeah.
And then there's another girl, Portia, of course. Then there's Queen Lee. She's been killing it. CK Lee been killing it. Let's see what I'm forgetting. There's a whole roster.
A whole list. Linga the Boss.
Yeah, Linga. All that. Because we had a whole group. Cece, all that. Toya. Yes. So we had like a whole group message because last January, we started linking up in real life, and we had like a small group situation, and so we link up and have like little small groups or having like little creative cohorts, and then we would produce content and put it out to promote us, to be like, hey, let's not just do nothing. If you want, you gotta actually be active. And so it was a cool way of us holding each other accountable. But yeah, I think it's been dope. Like there's a whole bunch of women out here who are killing it, doing their thing, and I think now it's just normal. Like you just hear people on each other's songs, on other men's songs. Like it's not just like let's call a girl because we want a female empowerment song. But now it's like
normal.
Let's just have songs. Yes. Yeah. So
do you feel like a trailblazer?
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah.
What does that feel like?
I think it's beautiful. I used to tell my husband Darius, like, oh, I'm probably gonna be the first female rapper signed on Reach, and he'd be like, okay. I knew he thought I was delusional. Like he probably thought like, okay, you'll get on Reach, but I don't know about the first. Like, you know how odd that is. Like somebody could get signed tomorrow. But yeah, I think it was cool seeing how God allowed it to happen, because it could have been anybody, but I guess the gift of God allowing it to be me has been really beautiful. And yeah, I think it's been cool just being able to, I guess, steward the platform properly. And then with anything I've been given, just giving back to others to be like, oh, hey, you want to interview me? Oh, my friends are right here. Right. They're female rappers. Why don't you get their information? Oh yeah, let's link up. And so it's been really cool.
You're doing so much, Wande, and I mean, I'm so proud because we were able and we had the opportunity of at least developing a friendship with you before you got signed, and you were just working at Reach as A&R. But did you imagine that your life would be what it is now 5 years ago before you signed to Reach?
Oh, I think definitely. I believed it.
Yeah.
I think it was really hard to hold on to the belief because, your circumstances don't always align. But I was like, I feel like this is what God was saying. But I also had to come to terms with, okay, he told me to rap, so that could just mean being faithful at my church. And I was totally fine with that. And it's so funny because once I became totally fine with that, that's whenever he gave me the platform.
Wow.
But literally, I think I always saw it. I knew that it was going to be a thing. Even like people who used to pray for me when I was younger, they'd be like, I just feel like God was saying there's something special. And then like they'd be like shook, and they were like, okay, this is kind of weird. But they're like, dang, I feel like God has like some type of mantle on you. Like it's kind of crazy. So I feel like I always knew. But it was just now just living in it. Yeah.
So I want to talk about this because, like we said earlier, Holy Girl's up by like 1,000. a million billion trillion, literally. Because I feel as if it's so dope seeing. I was talking to shout out to Ace Harris at Reach. I was talking to him about how dope it is to see the fact that it's not just like, don't worry about it happening and that was it.
Yeah.
Like, you know, it's been like a momentum of different things that have happened. And so for those who don't even know, but even in your own words, define what it means to be a holy girl.
I think to be a holy girl, I think it means, one, you gotta be holy, you know. So know the Lord, love the Lord with like all your heart, all your mind, all your strength. And I think just embody what it is to be a woman of God. But then I think it also is just kind of like loving the other women around you as well, you know, supporting your sisters in Christ, and embracing your femininity, I think, as well. I think sometimes, especially with hip hop culture, you might feel like, oh, I have to be masculine to stand out. But it's like, no, actually, I'm going to be my full feminine self and love Jesus and be out here. And, you know, I think it's a beautiful thing whenever you see that, like, oh, wow, it's like a feminine woman who's just really comfortable being a woman, but whenever she opens her mouth, like, she's talking about holy things, the way she loves others and supports others, it's like, oh, wow, this reminds me of the love of Christ. And so I feel like that's what it's like and what it means to be a holy girl.
I can't lie to you. I love that you said femininity, because I feel like that's personally something in me that I've been trying to lean into, just because when you're in areas where it's male dominated and things like that, and you're kind of like, okay, I don't want to do too much, you know what I'm saying? But it's kind of like, I was like, no, like, to work, I'm gonna wear heels, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm gonna wear my nails, you know what I'm saying? And it just, there's power in that, and being a feminine woman, and I love that you touched on that. And even also with the Holy Girl movement, I love it because I'm personally in a spot where I'm purging music that don't fit my life. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's like listening to like Meg and Cardi and Lotto. I hate singing things that I can't relate to, but I play high C, I play steppin'. It's like, oh, I can relate to that. What do you think it is about the Holy Girl movement that makes it so attractive to women, to girls, everyone who's listening?
I think women, we just historically don't have a soundtrack to our life, especially holy girls. Because like, as you were sharing, it's like, okay, I have other rappers, female rappers, who talk about being feminine, but then they slip in the sin bars. It's like, we're 70% there, but then that close. That 30% I can't get with this sis. And so I think women haven't had something that I could like fully listen to, fully be a fan, fully support, and be like, yes, this does not talk about living a sinful lifestyle. So I think that's what makes it so attractive in terms of like women. There's a lot of women who love God out here, and they're like, I actually want to honor the Lord. I just don't have any options. So I think it's really cool for them to have something where they can listen to it and be like, yes, this is my rationness, this is my femininity, and it honors God. Like, this is my whole essence of who I am in one, you know, sonic package.
I've enjoyed over the years just taking a moment in which Meah and I have been able to support female MCs in CHH and be able to witness the growth and development of this Holy Girl era. But with you and Portia and all of the lady MCs that we just love and support so much, talk to me about what it means to you to see this movement grow and just spread like wildfire.
Yeah, I think it's beautiful. And honestly, I look back now and I'm like, wow, because even like with the upcoming tour and stuff, like, I don't think I processed like, oh, I used to always only like tour with men. And like, oh, when there was a show, I was the only person there. So now it's crazy, because now, like, for instance, like, if you was like, hey, you want to come rap for my show, I can hit up Queen Lee and be like, hey, you in town? All right, pull up with me. Let's go do a song. Wow, So I think it's a beautiful thing to just be able to have a community of friends who are like actually your friends. And like, it's like, oh, we can just hang out and rap together at the same time. So it's really cool to have options, and it's not just like one other random person, but it's like, oh yeah, these are like my actual friends. We can actually hang out. We can actually talk about life, actually do life together. We can help each other with our hair, help each other with our songs, just sit in on sessions. So it's cool because we can just like actually do life together, similar to what the guys had, but like now, you know, in our own capacity.
Love it.
It's even like the genre has even like embraced this more, because I'm even thinking back to like when we went to Smoke Fest and like the guys had their own dressing room, but like we had ours too. We were able to be in there, like, you know, hang and chill out. And I feel like if it was just, I feel like maybe years in the past it probably wasn't that, or it was probably not considered. So the fact that people are more mindful and now being able to accommodate is like a beautiful thing. With you being able to be in because you've been tapped into CHH for a minute. You know what I'm saying? Even beyond you actually getting into the game, you were actually a lover of it. When looking at like the scope of the genre over as long as you've been tapped into like, well, I guess like when Show Baraka was a part of Reach and things like that. Talk a little bit about the growth you've seen of CHH over time, and like what do you like that's happening more? Like what's anything that artists have been doing, the genre's been moving into a direction or progressing in any way that you're proud of seeing?
Yeah, I think I'm proud of. I think we're moving back into like the bold Christianity era, which is really dope because I'm like, hey, you don't challenge me in my face. I love it. I think we're getting into an era where people are challenged creativity, creativity wise, in terms of like you can't just get away with just putting something out. And because it had Jesus, you got to stream it. I think it's really cool. But now you have people who are executing at a high level. And I think it comes from people just saying yes to God. So I think God probably had a roster of 50 people.
Facts,
but if only 2 people said yes, you're only getting 2. Like, so I think now of the roster of 50, you're starting to get 50 who are saying yes. And you're starting to see that with TikTok and stuff like that, with people who are like putting out their thing. And this is really what God has called them to do. So I feel like, yeah, we have so many diverse forms of hip hop now showing up. Like, you know, you have the vibey, you have the intense turn up,
the Afro,
the Afro, the chill. So I think you have so many different expressions, which is what God wanted. But then all of it is still honoring the Lord. And so, yeah, I'm happy because now it's not just one way to do it now. Now there's so many different ways of how you can do it, so many different ways of how you can set up your business. So many different songs, so you can literally press shuffle like the radio and like just have different vibes. So I think we're in a really good and healthy place.
And I feel like so many artists too have been like coming out the woodworks, and like even like the what is the word, man, I guess the fact that going viral is just like normal now, like you know, with Into the Light going viral, and then even shout out Sam Rivera and things like that, RG with God Made a Way, like, you know, like it's crazy, the more bold we are, like people really need that, you know what I'm saying? So the fact that the more bolder we've been, the more God's been even able to like place us on the top shelf, which is good. You know.
I also wanted to chime in and ask, because you've been in the space for so long, whether you were signed, whether you're just on staff, or whether you're just a regular, like just a supporter, is there anything that CHH needs to do to grow? Is there anything that the space could do to be better?
That's an interesting question. I think from an artist side, I think there's like a humbleness aspect that comes from things. So in terms of like, I think some artists, when they do go viral, but they have like, so now there's a thing where you don't have to go through a label, right? And so because you don't have to go through a label, now some people literally have like no type of discipleship in their life. And it's like, oh, I just got saved last week and I put out a song. Right. And so I think because of that, you might have some people where if you just got saved last week and God, you know, hasn't taught you the lesson of pride yet, or hasn't taught you the lesson of humbleness yet, you know, you might have some people who blow up and then they're like, hey, whatever I said is right, and you know, whatever I know, like that's the only way to do it. And they have no accountability, no covering. Right. So I think in terms of an artist aspect, there's a lot of new artists who need to learn in terms of the aspect of like submission and like having a covering in terms of having humbleness. And I think once they get that, God can take you to beautiful heights. Because I think it's just a healthy thing. Like even if it's not even like with a label or anything, but like a local church body type stuff. I think also with the older people, they need to, you know, also be humble and learn like, hey, that there's a new way of doing things. So in the same way, like disciple these people, but at the same time learn from what they're doing and don't say like we have to do it the way things were done. I think labels probably need to learn like, hey, there's a new way of doing things, so they might have to create new offerings, like the way in terms of like the way they used to do deals probably might need to change, like because now people's motivators for like why they want to sign are completely different than before, because now it's like, hey, like if all you're gonna say is like, hey, sign with us, and then you're gonna ask me to do what I was already doing, like if I'm already gonna be making TikToks and I already was making TikToks and the songs are doing well, what can you do for me?
Like make it a win-win situation for everybody.
So I think they have to just figure out like what can we offer now, or is it us just doing the work for you? So like what can we offer now that you don't already have? Which might look at partnerships. Like they might need to partner with some major labels and kind of figure out what type of percentage base they want to do type stuff. But I feel like that's kind of mainly it. And I think also not shying away from like being unashamed. I think there might have been some eras where people felt like, oh, this might not be the most marketable, but I think now we're seeing like, nah, people want to worship. So
oh wow,
worship and not being afraid to collaborate with people outside of our space and just different things like that.
I want to talk about something that you touched on that I thought was interesting. You said discipleship when it came to being a part of a label and kind of having like that mentorship. Was has it been like that for Reach with you? Like kind of talk into that. I thought that was kind of interesting.
I think it's like yes and no. So yes, in terms of like, I think to an extent it's always been available. So I think we have a group message for everybody who's on Reach, and so at any random time, you'll get a word from Lecrae or from Trip or Tadashi, anybody, and they'll like share a nugget of like, oh, this is what I feel like God is calling me to do, or this is a word I feel like God wanted me to share with y'all. Oh, here's a resource. Y'all should read this book. I think it will change your life. Oh, here's a cool chapter in Proverbs or something like that. So I feel like in terms of, yes, it's always there because I'm like constantly every week getting some type of message from somebody who's rooted in their faith. I think they're always saying, hey, my door is open. So if he needs to talk to me about something, talk to me about something. So it's always there. And I mean, they're not going to have you out here looking crazy. So if you do something crazy, they're going to tell you like, hey, like, let's talk about this. What's going on? So I think there is a yes in terms of like, it's always been there. I think also though, I think the closeness might not have always been there. So I think we've had seasons maybe where everything was cool, but then we might have seasons where it's like, oh, I don't know if we're close like that. And then if you're not close, you don't talk. So there can't be any discipleship if it's not there. And I think also people just figuring out like, oh, like, can I talk to this person because they're a girl? Like, there's like a weird barrier of like, what is like acceptable as a brother to do and what's not. But I think people have gotten over like overthinking. Which has been cool. But I think there is some level of discipleship per se that I don't encounter because there's still like a closeness I think that comes from like a brotherly counsel versus, and so I don't really have that. So I think I get that from like maybe my pastor's wife and stuff like that. So I feel like that's where I get more of that. But so I think now it's been actually really cool because I noticed recently with the upcoming tour, I'm like, oh yeah, like a lot of these women are more seasoned than me. So I'm like, oh, I probably should ask them some life questions. Like, so I think God has been opening doors and placing me in positions to be in more rooms with people who are doing things more than me. It won't be direct because it's not rapping, but it's still like the Christian industry. And I think he's been allowing me to have more resources now for stuff like that.
Good. No, that's dope. And I feel like mentorship, I feel like community discipleship is all super, super important, not just for the music industry, but like in all areas. But me, I feel like now is a great time to just take a break and let them chew on some of this music.
Let's dive into some of this music that Wande's been a part of. When we come back, we're going to talk about collaborations, not only as Wande experience in music, but we want to even talk about the business side because I feel like you're really knowledgeable in that. It's your girls Meesa Meah here on M&M Live Radio. Here's the Stay Low remix with Toya Love, Childlike CC, Reese Lachey, Jackie Hill Perry, and Wande. We'll be right back here with Wande in studio on M&M Live Radio. Heat, nothing but heat, man. That was Stay Low remix featuring Toya Love, Reese Lachey, Childlike CC, Jackie Hill Perry, and the one and only Wande, who is in studio with us on M&M Live Radio. Listen, we're so happy that you're here, Wande. I want to talk about something that I saw you post on, I think that was TikTok, just like yesterday, where you had a cake out and you were blowing out candles, and I saw in your caption you said, God wanted you to start celebrating, and that it was your queen era. Can you describe like what era that is, like the time that like where you're just in the season you're in right now?
Yeah, so I just felt like God was like, hey man, just embrace being a queen. And I was like, okay, Lord, you know, it is what it is. But it's so crazy. It wasn't until after I posted that I realized like, oh, I don't usually celebrate. And I was talking to my friend Deja about this. That a lot of times like I would not fully celebrate my accomplishments because I would feel bad, and I'd be like, oh, because like people around me haven't done it, so like I don't want to talk about it, or like like my siblings, because like some of my siblings and stuff like that are like in prison, so I'd be like, oh, it doesn't feel appropriate to be like saying like, oh yeah, I just did this, but then it's like, oh well, this person's in prison right now. So I realized I haven't done that, and so I felt like the Lord was telling me like, I want you to enjoy the things I'm giving you because I'm giving them to you for a reason. And yeah, I think he wanted me to just fully embrace the joy of doing that. And just be like, dang, like, do you not see how far you came? Like, I want you to enjoy it. And so I think that was like the main reasoning behind it. And I think it was also like prophetic in a sense of like him telling me to celebrate on top of that because he's still going to do more. Right. So yeah, I told Darius, I was like, hey man, So like God told me we need to go celebrate. We need to go out to eat, and we need to buy cake and just celebrate. And so I was like, I need to be obedient and just do it. But I'm glad I did it, because then it was crazy too, because so many people messaged me after that, and they were like, yeah, I feel like God was telling me the same thing too, where I have an issue of not celebrating, and because I feel bad, or like people try to tell you that like it's prideful or something like that, and it's like, no, I want to be thankful for what God has done in my life and what he's doing in my life, and just seeing the transition. So yeah, it's been beautiful to see how many people are getting like a breakthrough from that, of just being like, oh, I want to be able to publicly say thank you to God for what he's done. I want to publicly mark, you know, the transition that I'm observing in my own life. And yeah, I'm just grateful for that.
I want to go on a slight tangent, only because I in my notes I want us to talk about, like, you know, like the things coming up, like tour, and like your insight on like the music business, which we're going to touch into. But I just really feel like you have a real strong prayer life. You know what I'm saying? Or just like your relationship with God is so solid. And it's one thing to be someone who's has all these accolades and things like that, and to rely on themselves. But like, we just know that like we know that you stay locked in with God, and having like that direction and whatnot. Talk about how that your relationship with God kind of keeps you grounded, even when it comes to like believing for things in faith, or just like going against norms, or like even like the plans you may have for yourself, and like even like we were talking about the whole Queen era, and like the things that you're kind of celebrating. And talk about how leaning on God and kind of really trusting in him, talking to him on a everyday basis has really pushed you forward when it comes to your career.
Yeah, I think it's vital, essential, honestly, because I think if you're not tapped in with God, you'll have a lack of vision. And I think like it talks about like my people perish for a lack of vision. And so whenever you don't have a vision, you're just doing things just because, and like you're just guided by the wind. Like it's just, oh, this person told me to do that, so I'm gonna do it. Oh, this person told me to do that. Versus like, who did God create you to be? Who did he create you to reach? And you know, let that be the guiding principle for like why you're doing it, and like what God tells you to do. And so for me, talking to God, staying connected is so important, because then I have a why behind what I'm doing. I have a motivator. It's like, okay, I'm making this album because God told me to do this, to talk to these people. So when opposition comes, that's irrelevant, because I'm doing what God told me to do. Or when great things happen, that's beautiful. It looks like that's what God told me to do. And so, yeah, it just helps me have a direction. And just even now, to this point in my life, because even before, rapping seemed crazy, unfathomable. And it was like, well, God told me to do it, so I'm going to do it. And then now I'm here, like, living out, you know, rapping full-time as a ministry. And so I think listening to him is so vital, because you just don't know what he's trying to do. Yeah. And you don't know. I think I'm realizing now, you don't know how many people's freedom is on the other side of your yes. Because even I was thinking about it the other day, like, generationally, in terms of like Lecrae and them, their yes changed my life in other ways.
That's real.
So I got saved at a summer camp that Lecrae and them rapped at. And so at first it was just like the surface level influence of like, oh, you know, God was convicting my heart a little bit, and I wanted to change up my music style. And so I wanted to find music that was like a Christian remix of things. And then I found actual Christian rappers. Then I saw he was rapping at a camp my church goes to, so I convinced my dad to let me go to the camp because they had an internship. But it was really, I just wanted to go see the Christian rappers. And so I showed up at the camp, but hey, plot twist, I ended up getting saved. Saved at the camp. So he don't even know who I am at this point. His yes, like 10, 12 years ago, ends up me getting saved. Then fast forward, his yes impacts me in other ways, because then I end up actually being a rapper who I'm impacting other people's lives. And it's like his yes is connected to like thousands of souls. Like, and it's crazy, because that's like with all of our lives, you don't realize, you know, what your yes means. And so I think staying connected to God is super important, because you just don't know what he's trying to do. He's really elaborate with how he plans things. Even from me going to college, like it might have seemed like irrelevant at the time, but it's like God could be like, hey, you need to meet your husband. And I met my husband when I went to college. So it could be something small like that. Even like Hovey, his current wife, I met her in college, and then they got introduced. So like little things where God's like, hey, just make this pit stop for me, because it's part of the plan. And then continuing on, like, it's so important to listen to his voice, because he's very intricate and he does elaborate things with his plans.
Yes,
that's so good,
all
man.
All your ways acknowledge him, and he will direct your path. I love that you even touched on that, even talked about your prayer life and you celebrating this different stage in your life. But I feel like, you know, you're going to be celebrating a whole lot often, because Wande, you wear so many hats. You do so much. Not only are you an artist, but you also know the business side, you had an opportunity of learning the business side of the music industry. What do you think you would say is the biggest thing that you've learned in the business side of the music industry?
Business side. This is so much. I think one is more theoretical and one's like more practical. So I think in a theoretical sense, it's like nobody actually knows what they're doing. So like, don't take yourself too seriously. Like, really anything is learnable. So like, don't feel like, oh, because I don't know anything, I'm not going to try. Like literally everybody is just negotiating and it's kind of vibes. So really just show up with confidence and learn along the way. I think that's one of the biggest thing I learned. But then I think in a practical sense, read your contracts and have a contract, man, because that can avoid a lot of stress in life. So yeah.
And let me also kind of piggyback on a lot of the businesses that you have. So like you have your Win brand, like the makeup. You have been on podcasts and led podcasts. You are an artist. You do so many different things. Is there anything that Wande hasn't done yet?
Yeah, it's so funny that you mentioned that. So God is literally this past month actually thrusted me into some new arenas, and it's funny because it's made me uncomfortable, but I was like, I'm just gonna say yes. And I actually like tweeted the other day or threaded that like just give your yes, and don't block the Lord trying to bless you. And so new arenas that God's been bringing me into is public speaking and acting. And so yeah, it's so crazy, totally not qualified at all, but God is like, nope, I'm gonna qualify you though. And so I literally have just been giving my yes, doing my best, letting God do the rest. And he's just been like literally opening doors that don't even make no sense. And so it's been beautiful. And so that's like the new arena that God has been bringing me into, and so I'm excited to see everything come to fruition. So,
man, get the Grammys, get the Oscars, get the
and
Tonys,
EGOT.
She will be the next EGOT.
Bro, that would be insane. How does it feel to dive into something? Well, I say new loosely, but like, because music is like the top tier. I feel like that you can do that in your sleep, but like something like public speaking and acting is like a new arena. How does it feel? Like, how is this the uncomfortability of that? Like, how are you leaning into that?
I think it's been beautiful. I think God did it on purpose. He's real funny because now thinking about it, it's forcing me to lean on God more. Because like literally, I'm like, this doesn't make sense. Like literally, I'm like, I know on my own strength, I cannot make this happen. So I'm like, God, you have to show up because people are saying like, I feel like the Holy Spirit highlighted me to you. It don't make sense, but God told me I need to talk to you. I'm saying the same thing. Like, it don't make sense, but I want to do it. But also, I'm like, God, doesn't make sense. So you have to equip me and give me the abilities and the strengths so that way that person also who is walking on faith doesn't look stupid. So literally, it's just caused me to lean on God more. It's caused other people who God is talking to behind the scenes, to talk to me, to lean on God more. But yeah, I think it's been really cool. Literally, it's just I'm leaning on God more. It's putting me in a more vulnerable position, but it's been beautiful because I've been able to. Yeah, I've been literally able to see in real time whenever you're weak, God is strong. And like literally saying like, if you're just faithful and just show up, and like how you talked about he'll direct your paths. Like, he's like, all right, God, I'm just giving my yes. I'm not going to complain. And him just, making things work.
Wow, man, opening the doors. I'm so excited to see what this next arena of your life takes you, because I mean, like, I can see you on the AMC movie screens. I can see you on commercials.
Amen.
I can see all of those different things simply because you're a willing vessel. Like, you've made yourself available and you've given your yes so that God can elevate you to do so many different things, and so that his name can be glorified in the end of it. So really quick, okay, we can't just speed past that song that we played as if, there was not any details to get there to that song. So we're talking about Stay Low. Stay Low. Right? So look, one of the craziest summer girl, holy girl anthems that I feel like came out of CHH was the very first one, in my opinion. It was Don't Worry About It. You, Portia Love, doing your thing. Like, I remember when it actually came out. No. I remember when y'all had debuted it on the stage of, was it Holy?
First ever Holy Smoke.
Oh, yeah, it was like Holy Smoke. Yeah.
Smoke Fest. And when I tell you, y'all came out guns blazing.
Lost my mind.
Everybody lost their minds.
It was crazy.
They lost their minds.
The label was standing at the side like, what is going on? They were like, oh.
Yeah. Like, we shook the city because we were just jumping left and right, going crazy. Like, the energy in the room, and we were outside.
It was hot.
It was crazy. But it was such an anthem to the point where I felt like it wasn't just for the Holy Girls. Definitely was. But we didn't leave out the Holy Hot Boys on the side. You know what I'm saying? But this song right here, Stay Low, man, when I tell you, like, them spitting fire, you have the remix on it, you're on it with so many other amazing women. How did this come about? Like, was it like the ladies, or the original ladies that were on the track were like, let's go ahead and add to this. Let's go ahead and put Wande in the chat. Let's put Jackie Hill Perry in the chat. How did that come about?
It was like various layers. So one aspect was like, I'm trying to figure out the best way for it. One aspect was like there was a original version of the song that, you know, I was working on, and then some weird situations happened. And then so one aspect of was actually like me doing like what's it called? Reconciliation. One aspect was reconciliation because the label actually had to apologize to me and be like, oh, we're sorry because you're working on the song. And then we kind of just were like, oh, you know, she wants to put it out later, so we're just going to put it out without her. And so one aspect was reconciliation of me because, I mean, honestly, I could have just been like, well, forget y'all. I'll move on with my life. But I wanted to, especially because the girls had nothing to do with that situation, I wanted to be like, I don't want this to cause division because I feel like with division it just like nobody wins and like the enemy just prevents other people from being able to hear the gospel and more people from uniting because whenever people unite, beautiful things happen. So one aspect actually came from reconciliation of me choosing to choose unity and the actual impact of the song over like the situations behind the song. Then the next aspect of that also happened too because around that time once I chose the unity aspect, my jaw was like closed. And so it was crazy because like physically I felt like I was under attack. Literally I felt like I was being silenced in one aspect and I was being silenced physically like and so it was crazy. So then I was like, okay, this is actually an attack, so I had to like that's what caused me to lean even more into it of being like, no, I'm not gonna like allow my life to like be silenced. So what I also did was I just chose to with however much I could move my mouth, I chose to like still say yes, show up to the studio and rap. And so at the time I had like a very severe slur. And so it took a while to record it. It was kind of an emotional thing because it was like, hey, can you say it again? And I was like, yeah, I can say it again. But yeah, I like actually leaned on stories like Moses. So he was like, hey, God, I know you want me to talk, but this is embarrassing. You know, you're telling me to do this because I sound like this. And God was like, I don't care. I told you just to show up. I'm gonna be there for you. But he went through a period where he was like, God, like, I just feel stupid. And so I took a lesson from that story being like, hey, if God is telling you yes, it's because he's already preparing the way. So that was one aspect too of leaning into, you know, life is not about you, you know? And so it's saying like, hey, if God gave me the gift of rapping or whatever, and he has a story for me to tell, I'm just going to tell that story. And so that was another aspect of me doing the song of like, literally stay low, like humbling myself in like every aspect. Because one aspect could be like, oh man, these people did you wrong. Don't do the song. But humbling myself for the greater good of who it's going to impact. And then the other aspect of humbling myself in terms of like, oh, you might sound stupid and it won't sound perfect, but humbling myself to be like, even if I have a lisp on certain aspects of it, like still doing the verse. And so that was kind of like the inspiration of like how I ended up being on the song. So yeah.
Really? Yeah. Now you mentioned, because there was a line that you mentioned in your verse about like rapping through the wire. You know, if it's too emotional, do you mind sharing what happened?
Yeah. So honestly, it was just like, it just came out of nowhere, honestly. But I think it was triggered by like life stress. So there was a lot of things I was avoiding. So I definitely went through a season of being like a people pleaser. And so God was telling me, hey, there's certain people that got to go out of your life and certain things that need to go out of your life. And yeah, I just pushed them off for a long time. I was like, yeah, I know, God, I know I have to handle this. But I just kept on putting it off. And I think that mixed with just how I was being treated with like different organizations and stuff like that, I think my body just like went into shock. And I think that's what caused like my jaw to just no longer open per se. And so I had discovered it randomly one time, actually, when it started. Like me and Darius were out to eat with like a couple. And I was eating, and I was like, why is my food falling on me? And I was like, this is weird. And then I realized, I'm like, I can't put this fork in my mouth. And then it was like, we had just met this couple too, so it was like, dang, we're not even close like that. And so I just had like my napkin on my lap, and literally all my food was like on my lap because like it couldn't go into my mouth. And so that's when I noticed something was wrong. And so yeah, I hit up a specialist, and I hit up, you know, prayers. And so those are my tag team. And then from there, yeah, the Lord I was able to work, because whenever I went to the specialist, they told me like, hey, it's going to take 6 months before you'll be able to like talk normally ever again. You're going to have to take it slow. And yeah, 6 months would actually be like June. And so, yeah. So according to the doctors, I shouldn't even be able to talk right now.
Man,
Rapping shouldn't have been able to get done.
Yes.
And so it's actually really beautiful because, you know, I had a speedy recovery. The doctors were like, hey, man, I don't know what's going on, but, you know, it was Jesus. But they're like,
Yeah.
I don't know, like, you just had a
Wow.
speedy recovery, your life changed. And so, yeah, I literally saw the Lord work and, like, heal my jaw, me being able to talk, me being able to rap just by showing up and giving my yes to God. And he just unlocks everything, and then
I
was
will
able to live
start
life.
shouting right
Bro,
now. I will start shouting.
Let me say
right
this real
now.
quick. I feel like I've just felt like this person where like sometimes I feel like when you're so on fire for God,
Yes.
and then when the enemy can't attack you spiritually, I feel like he'll try to attack you physically.
Yeah.
And I don't consider it a coincidence, the fact that you use your mouth for your job.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So the fact that him trying to hold you back, well, I mean, she on fire, she praying, she relying on God, I gotta shut her up, literally.
Wow.
Yeah.
And the fact that you pushed through the wire one day, that is such a beautiful testimony. And I'm just so grateful the fact that, one, shout out to the specialist and the prayers, because I think that just even speaks more to the assignment that's on your life,
And
yo.
you didn't allow that to break you.
Yeah, because
Like,
that's a
easily,
lot.
That, I mean, like Meah said, I mean, that's just something that easily could just push you
Yeah.
down.
Yeah.
You know, and I mean, and you talk and you're so transparent about, like, you know, there's moments where you went through a depression, and there's moments where you weren't feeling so lit, like the Wande that we see on social media. It's not always that behind closed doors, like when the mic is off, when the camera and when the lights are off and everything. But you've always just been so transparent, so honest, and the fact that it hasn't even made its 6-month mark yet.
Yeah.
And you are about to go on tour, my friend.
You listen.
Thank you for just persevering. 'Cause,
Yeah,
like,
for
you
real.
Literally, in my personal opinion, Wande, you have always been a person that literally lives their life out completely, unashamed, 100 on fire for God. And that's what I feel like is gravitating so many holy girls to come together in unity, so many people to give their life to Christ, and then just encouraging so many artists that see themselves in you. You know what I'm saying? So, like, I may not be an artist, but I am a creative, but I look up to you so much. So thank you so much for sharing that.
For real. And
Seriously.
before we go, we gotta talk new music, because new music is on the way.
Just real quick.
You tease things on social media.
Yes.
And I remember even seeing you at Reach and Passing. You've just been in the studio. Talk about album mode. How you've been.
Oh,
where are you
yeah.
at creatively? Like, just give us anything you can regarding new music.
Yes, new music is legendary. Anybody who's heard it, has said, "Oh wow, I don't know, you got the Holy Spirit with you," because they said Breakthrough Award, Most Improved Award, all that. They said, yeah. So it's a beautiful time. So I'm working on an album called Breakthrough, and yeah, I'm excited. It's very vibrant songs.
Love it.
Yeah, it's just like it's a new era. It's a new
Yeah.
era. I'm very excited. So I have a new song coming out with Lecrae very soon. It's called Send That. Oh no, it's called Send That. We had to go back and forth with the title. It's called Send That. So yes, it's a lituation. You're gonna turn up, and that one's literally about anything that's coming your way. You don't have to handle it. You know, it's above me. I'm setting that up to God.
That's
And
good.
he gonna handle it, you know? And just realizing, like, you don't gotta hold grudges, you know, realizing, like, you don't even have to try to orchestrate your life. Just send it up to God and let his presence reign over the situation. And, you know, at the end of the day, he'll work it out, and whatever needs to happen, gonna happen. And he gonna protect you.
The last album you released was Exit. How different will Breakthrough be from Exit?
Oh, severely.
severely.
No, but it's great. I think it's a more healed version. It's so funny. Like, actually, I just realized it's a pattern. So I'm like, I don't want this to be a pattern anymore. But it's so funny. Anytime I make an album, I'll go through something. It's so funny. It's so, like, once again, a breakthrough. I went through something, and then God delivered me out the situation. But this time, we're talking about how you getting out. So we exited, and now we're breaking through.
Exiting into our breakthrough.
That's
That's
how
our
you
breakthrough.
know it's going to be a
That's so good.
situation. I'm so excited. Wande, thank you so much for taking the time to be on the show with us, celebrating our 5th anniversary. Of being on M&M Live Radio, almost to the date. But if you could give your social, give any information of how we can stay connected with you, you have the floor.
Yes, if you want to keep up with me, my name is Wande. That's Wande. And all my socials and my website is OMG It's Wande. So that's OMGITSWANDE. Check it out. We got all the links to the music, the tour, everything. I'd love to see you and tap in. Yeah.
Tap in. Listen, make sure y'all are following Wande on all social media, man. And again, shout out to Wande for being on the show. Make sure y'all go get tickets. Girls Night Out is coming to a city near you. Make sure y'all are in the building, showing our girls some love. Your girls M&M. Shout out to everyone who's in studio. Shout out Darius, who's here, and Chemo for also engineering and holding down the operation. As always, we got to end the show on a high note. So as always, y'all, make sure you be yourself like you mean it.
Always remember that the rain in the storm helps things grow. So if you're walking through a storm right now, don't worry, because you're growing from it.
God is the only everything you'll ever need.
And when you can't turn left
or right, turn up, because that is not an option.
We are so excited for this opportunity. Wande, we love you so much.
Too.
Listen, y'all, we'll catch y'all next time. You're listening to You Already Know.
It's M&M Live Radio.
Period.